And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Apologize for the slight delay. Adam normally drives this meetings, and I had to find the right button. So anyway, that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, it is just me today. Adam, in typical Midwesterner fashion, the sun came out, the temperature crawled up above zero, and so he immediately headed out to go camping. So I'm sure he'll relay a bit more information about us to us with that. Anyway, so glad that he gets to take that break. And I know he works from the camper, so, here or there, it doesn't really matter. We're remote all the time anyway. So we're going to be continuing our discussion on QBRs a little bit today. If you look at our quarter and our overall progress, again, you can go out to our website, and we've got these discussions mapped out, this 12-month playbook that we're discussing with you, that are tips and templates and rough frameworks for how you can be engaging with your clients over a 12-month engagement as well. Feel free to check those out. But Q1 is architecture. Last week, we talked about how QBRs are dead. And I like the way Adam said it. MSPs killed them, right? A quarterly business review is a great idea. But what it got turned into was anything but a business review. And to be honest, they don't always happen quarterly either, do they? So I know many MSPs are like, oh yeah, we're getting ready. We're going to have our annual QBR with the client, because that's what ends up happening. And obviously ways to make that better so that these engagements are really valuable to your clients. And this is an important part. I'll probably hit on this several times. When they're valuable to your clients, they're valuable to you. So we want to talk about that a little bit, it's just me today. I want to talk about that a little bit today with you. And we're going to center this around, if QBRs are dead, if we killed them, all right, and we're going to resurrect them into something better, we can't just do the same thing. So the title of this one is Change Your Content. So in these regularly scheduled business-focused business reviews that we do with our clients, we need to change the content that we're bringing to those engagements. And since I'm here by myself and there's nobody to stop me, I'm going to indulge my old age tendencies and tell a story. All right. I'm trying to, restrain myself from some of these. I feel like I'm hitting that age where I'm like hitting the red line on too many stories. I apologize. This one is really good, not because of its specifics. All right. It's something I think you'll remember. And that's the idea, is the philosophy, the perspective behind this. So we can roll the calendar way back on this one and go into the late 90s. You have a 20-something IT guy, me, working for a local city government. And I'll just be honest, I thought I knew it all, right? I thought I was the thing. And in some technical areas, I was pretty hot stuff, but it was a few years later where I realized I wasn't quite as hot stuff as I thought. So I'm really riding that high feeling of, I'm king of the world, installing huge networks. And one of the components that we brought online with this big initiative we were doing at the city was a Lotus Notes server. Right? So some of you know those, and I very, very mixed feelings about those. There's some really cool things about it. And even for the 90s, though, I will say the presentation of the user interface, the experience was really very, very new. I mean, this was an area where we're moving out of mainframes and, the green screens. If you're not familiar with those, I mean, those were, one color, green. And we were moving into very, natural looking and engaging interfaces. So we got all this up and running, and my boss, the director of information services, who was an old IT guy, I laugh because I thought he was, a really old guy, and looking back, he's probably about my age now. So I don't know, making questionable thoughts there about how I was viewing things. But he made a big effort and big push to get the proper printer driver installed on his machine that would work with Lotus Notes. And that used to be a lot more of a challenge than it is today. So he got it all set up finally. It was a bit of a deal to get it going, but he did it. And I was in his office one day, and I realized what his number one purpose for that was. And that was so he could print his emails and read them at his desk in front of his computer. Now, again, as I said, I was, a bit of, ego there that was going on. I quickly, said something kind of offhanded, meant to be a dig at the ridiculousness of printing an email while you're sitting at the desk with the email on the screen right in front of you. And Don was a great guy. I really enjoyed working for him. Very, very smart and very seasoned IT professional. And he showed me a lot of slack and grace that I probably didn't deserve. But anyway, he went on to teach me a very valuable lesson in Don printing his emails. And the fact of it was, yes, he knew just as I did the ridiculousness of that, of taking the time to print his email and sit there and read it at his desk. But here's a couple of things. Don was a bit older, like I am now, and I can, definitely sympathize with him. His back gave him some issues sometimes. And sitting up and leaning over, a keyboard, this is way before all the ergonomic stuff came out. So we struggled sometimes with that. And here's the kind of the real censure here. Don had managed to snag one of these chairs from a boardroom that had been remodeled years before. And this was some chair that it must have been an extra or something that got stored in a closet or whatever. And rather than it going to the government auction, Don managed to get it in his office. And this is one high-end leather luxury office chair that you just fall into and the world melts away. And that was Don's work chair. And so what Don liked to do, especially some of the emails that were going around, were pretty lengthy. They took some time. And so he really liked taking those particular, not all of his emails, those particular emails, printing them out. The printer was right there next to the monitor within arm's reach. He could grab that. He could lean back, put his feet up on his desk, and review these emails and really get into it. Gave him time to think about them. To coin the Texas phrase, he was able to pondercate on these emails. Something taking deep pondering on something with a lot of contemplation, you get pondercation, right? So Don was pondercating his emails in a manner that allowed him to really absorb more information, process that, and do it comfortably. And so the value here was really not what I expected it. The whole idea that Don needed to print his emails because he didn't know you could read them on the screen, that was silly. But his ability to do that in the manner that helped his job, that was of value for him. And so, again, that's a pretty silly story, but I tell that to really hammer in a principle here as you're talking to your clients about their architecture. You do need to have some understanding about how they are using those technology solutions. If you think that they're going to use it just one way, you better be right. All right. And that's a dangerous place to be. That young IT guy learned that, that I'm not always right. And that we really need to appreciate and understand what our clients are doing, the value that they're going to get from something. Because I can look at it and say, printing emails is just dumb. But our clients could look at that and go, I am tired of going to the chiropractor. That alone would save me money because I wouldn't have to go to the chiropractor so often. I could just sit back and relax and still get work done. Great. That's it. That's a solution I want. I want the printing email solution. Can you put that on our roadmap? And that is the dynamic that you really need to focus on with your clients. Yes, you have these technology solutions. You have your stack. We've been doing a lot of work with our members in the coaching session. We've got several of them going right now. You can still get in on those if you'd like to. We can fire those off at any time. They're really exciting. And we've been going through those stack assessments and looking at those. One, we need to catalog that. We need to know what it is. But then our next step in that process is really open those up. All right. Why is this of value to a client? And in doing that, we better understand it, but we can also document this and make it scalable. So this is not all just in your head. right? You may understand that value, but you need a way to communicate this in a very repeatable fashion, and something that your team can follow on, and something more importantly that can grow with your organization. Because when you get this process down, growth is almost inevitable. And unless you want to just start working 12 and 16 and then 18 hours a day, you really need to plan now for how you're going to bring that additional staff on board. And that's a good thing to work on. So as we go through these technical elements in the overall quarter that we're in with architecture, understanding what the stack is, and realizing that the stack does need, the architecture stack does need to be a part of our regularly scheduled client business review meetings, that the content that we present around the stack needs to be from the client perspective. And understanding that there are going to be things on that stack list that your client does not need. You need to identify those right away so that you don't spend time pushing and driving your clients down paths that they have no reason to go down. There's no motivation for them to go down that. For areas that there is, the reason and the motivation is the value to their business. So the better that you're able to understand that and get plugged into that. And again, we've said this many, many times. You do not have to be an expert in your client's business, right? They are the experts in their business. Leverage their expertise. You need to ask probing questions. You need to catalog this, because there are many similarities. If you have an accounting office that has a great value in a particular technology solution, some high-end document scanner that does fancy things with receipts or whatever, that is a value you can capitalize on in your other organizations. And one of the other really valuable things about this is, as you catalog that out, and there are occasions where you're going to share these reports. You don't necessarily always share the gap analysis report. Many times that can be a little bit too much in the weeds. All right. And so typically we want to be a little bit more high level and discuss the results of those gap analysis reports. But on the opportunities where we are looking at those, if you've communicated that well, those few simple lines of text in there, and maybe a cool little graphic, all right, because we got a spot for that. Those themselves can be great selling tools. You are going to be able to set yourself up for an opportunity as we get clients aligned with their stack to highlight those things, but also let them highlight the things that they're looking for. And so if they see some key words, some key value points, like, oh, we're really needing that XYZ thing, then it's easy for you to go, yes, we can put this over. We'll mark it as a future state. And, where are you guys at on this? Gives you a little bit of context for their current state. And now we have a project on the roadmap. And when we get that project on the roadmap, again, it's not its technical term. We're defining the value to the client. And it's going to be a little different for each of your clients. So that's why we always recommend changing the names of the projects once they land there. And you can begin that process of working that out. So to kind of circle back to my silly one, my gap analysis statement would have generated a project that said, install printers within arm's reach of users or something, right? That's technically enough specific so that someone would know, what they're supposed to do with that printer. But when it landed on the client's roadmap, the functional name for that would be relax while I read my emails. All right. That's a value for the clients. And that's something that they're going to be willing to discuss, right, and move forward with you. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the coming weeks as we talk more about some of the selling options and wrapping up Q1 and really setting expectations for the remainder of the year. So getting the value in your QBRs is going to make those QBRs much more desirable. Your clients are going to want to show up to those. You're going to want to show up to them because, one, they're a lot more interesting. Two, they're much, much less work. And three, here's the really key one, they do generate revenue, increased revenue for your organization. And it's a 3-point B there. That revenue is typically at a higher margin than what you have been doing if you're just focusing on the commodity-based value of these solutions. So looks like I'm going to do my usual. If I get them by myself, get these meetings by myself, I can usually wrap them up pretty quick. So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up for today. So change the content in your QBRs, understand the value in your architecture, and be able to communicate that effectively to your clients. So at the end of the day, they're buying value from you. They're not buying technology. They're not buying a commodity asset. They're buying something that they can't get anywhere else from anybody else because they trust you at a level that they've probably never trusted MSPs before, and they see an impact to their business that no one's ever been able to provide them. That is a great place to be as a valued partner versus just another vendor on the street. So appreciate you guys for joining us today. Stay tuned. We've got lots more things happening, integrations and updates are continuing to push to the platform. Those NinjaOne users out there, we are gathering some of that feedback. We haven't found any major bugs so far. So that's always good. I mean, we try our best to do the testing, but we discovered with NinjaOne, we don't have a really good test environment because that's always live, and I'm not working on MSP anymore. So that was a bit challenging, but with our partners, we were able to get that going. But now that's in production. So we definitely want to highlight that. Great things happening there. Lots of other tweaks going on in the platform and our Discord server. We've got some great activity going on there. People are joining. We've got chats going on. Someone was telling me the other day, they were talking about a chat that was going back and forth. I was like, wait, I missed that one. That was really good stuff. And so I had to go looking. There's plenty of things going out there. Let us know. And the coaching I mentioned earlier, if you still want to get on that, we have those available to kick off. Those are exciting times. And at the end of the day, they're actually extremely affordable for your organization. And when you can compare what you're able to get as far as revenue out of these, I think it's really a no-brainer. So again, thank you everyone for showing up. Next week, we will be continuing our discussion on architecture within this quarter, and we're going to be really highlighting on the value of how you can sell with proposals versus proposing. All right, so we've got a good proposals versus proposing. That's the same thing. I'm trying to read a screen here. Quoting versus proposals. All right, I had the window covered up, so sorry for that. Anyway, we'll dive more into that, and there's a really important element in some of the selling elements that we'll talk about next week. So again, thank you everyone, and we will see you guys later. Maybe. All right, I don't know how to run the system, so we'll just sign off with this. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.